Cause ain't nobody else got a praise like me. Hands to the sky, stand up on your feet. All I wanna see is my dad be bleed, so I yada da, king, 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 yada da, king.
This video is sponsored by our partnership with God Made Merch, my go-to for faith-based clothing that I personally wear. Catch the latest from the brand on Instagram at _God Made Merch. Get 10% off when you visit GodMadeMerch.com and apply the code YDK Radio at checkout. God Made Merch. We are all created in His image. All right, cool. Well, we here with my guy Sharp Skills.
Big dog.
Excited to get you on, man. I've been knowing you for years, bro. The dope thing is, anytime you do something like this, I always like to share the testimony. I think there's power. The Bible says there's power in the testimony.
For sure,
we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. So, man, let's get started on the Yada the King radio show with Sharp Skills. Talking about your testimony, man. Let's talk about it. And before you say anything, I remember you got to keep the Omaha part in there. Don't take the Omaha out.
Oh, you want the deep dive,
Yeah.
So what, we just talking about like just how I came to Christ, how, found God and all this and that. So long story, I guess make a long story long. I grew up in LA. That's where I'm originally from, Inglewood, California. And just, growing up in LA, it's a lot of things you can get into. You know, much like anywhere now, but I mean, especially like that's like the heart of it, of gang culture and just anything that you're trying to get into, you can get into it. And I've always been a very curious person. So sometimes that curiosity got me into some things, where I was, I was out, trying to do the whole gang thing, and luckily I had people in my life, like I even had some of the big homies who was from the set. Yeah. They didn't let me get too far. It was like, you the little homie, but Guardian. We gonna keep you from some of this. Yeah. And
what color was this, man? Was it red? Was it blue?
So I got a lot of family that's with the red, with Pyru and all of that. But this was mainly Crips, Roller 60s, and that whole situation. And I guess just being like, impressionable, and you around it. So I went to Culver City Junior High and high school, and that's where I really got kind of more so introduced to the gang culture, because you would have cats pulling up, that was from 60s, and there was a lot of Mexican gangs, that were there. And it was just kind of what you did. You saw it, so you was kind of a part of it. So, I was part of like little different cliques or whatnot. And, during that time, like the big thing was girls. Like how many girls can you pull? And a lot of drama stemmed from that, you know? So I just got mixed into some things, man. High school, just, fights and, a couple, I'm not gonna say nothing too heavy, but we was, a little lightweight.
I understand. Don't incriminate yourself.
Well, I mean, I think there's the what they call it, the anyway, that was a long time ago. I ain't worried about them now.
That's BC.
But anyway, fast forward. My mom, who was a minister in the AME church during that time, they moved her to Omaha, Nebraska. So this was like my freshman year of high school. Okay. So I left Culver City High School and then moved to Omaha, Nebraska, which was really just a really positive move for me. Because for one, it was taking me out of that element, and two, it was just, kind of forcing me to learn who I was kind of on my own. Because I still very much have that LA identity, and, even to this day. But back then, that was like what I identified as. I'm like this little LA, trying to be this little Crip, walking around. And Omaha, Nebraska forced me to grow kind of beyond that. And then a lot of my friends that I made out there, like, they were responsible. Like when I was in LA, I didn't know nobody that had their own car and had a job. And a lot of my friends out there, they was doing that in the, freshman, sophomore, junior year of high school. They was all about that, and so I think seeing that positive, though, kind of like those positive peers around me, made me start evaluating, you know, what I was doing with my life and to try to make some more positive decisions.
Now let me ask you this, because I know I met you right after you came from Omaha, I believe. It was about sophomores.
No, I was a senior.
Okay, so so that's why I always ask you that, because I remember that you like Omaha. I just came from, so I always thought you were from Omaha. So you know that's why I always mess with you about that.
I was only in Omaha for 2 years, but it was a really good 2 years, man. I made some really solid friends out there, and that's really where, like, just going back to the whole, like, I think my first real encounter with God was when how old was I? I might have been like 14. Yeah. And we had went to this church, and there was this, you know, the pastor was there, and like he was just like moving super heavy in the prophetic word, and he looked at me, and he was like, "God's called you to preach."
Yeah.
And you know, I'm receptive to God just because that's my family background. Like I grew up in the church, so I know all about that.
You respect it, yeah.
Yeah, you know, but I'm still trying to be who I am, you know, from LA. Like, you know, I got my whole identity and that whole wrapped up. Pretty much, you know what I'm saying, the things that the enemy had his hand on, he very much still had his hand on those things and that those strongholds.
Yeah.
And so, but I knew undeniably, like when dude said that, it wasn't even so much like the whole preach part, but it was just more so like I knew like God had his eye on me, you know? And so I remember one of those nights, I was in my room and I just felt, it was just like I felt the Holy Spirit just come in, man, and just kind of just take over, bro. Like I just, you know, like I wasn't like speaking in tongues, but it was just like I felt the heaviness, God's like presence.
Yeah.
And so I went and I ran into my mom and my stepdad's room, and I was just like, I was in tears, man. Like, man, God is talking to me and this and that. And
it's almost like a Samuel story.
I guess you could say that, bro. I guess you could say that, yep. And from that point, it was just like undeniable. Like I knew I had a calling on my life.
Yep.
But, you know, old habits die hard. I'm still like a sophomore in high school. I'm still trying to do my thing, you know. So that night kind of comes and goes. And I had my little still interactions in the church, but I still was pretty much very much bringing, you know, my old self into that situation. But God was working, you know. Like I remember, I think during that time was when I had wrote one of like my first gospel raps, you know, gospel songs. I did it over the Biggie's "One More Chance" beat, and I had my mom singing the hook "One More Chance." It was kind of lit, and we got to perform it. And so I think God really used music too, because, you know, I come from a musical family, but God was always just kind of like always in the mix with that, with the music. And like I remember one time listening to the Outkast ATLian CD. And, you know, I smoke weed, and I was listening to it while I was high, and I felt God speaking to me through that album. It was crazy, bro. Like, so like God has always had a hand in everything, like, you know, and he really used music, you know, to kind of get me on a path. So let me keep moving forward. So fast forward, I moved to Seattle my senior year of high school. And that's when God was like, all right, you know, enough playing, you know, this is, you know, we about to make this real. And the way that happened was through the deaths of my biological father, actually my stepfather, and then 6 weeks later, my biological father.
Wow.
Did I say that right? My stepfather, then my biological father, within 6 weeks, while I was a senior in high school. And so what ended up happening was, after we buried my stepfather, I got a call from my stepmom who lived in Compton with my dad. And she said, you need to get down here, your dad's not doing well. So I flew to LA to see my dad. And, you know, he was in the hospital, and he had the oxygen mask on him and everything. And I just remember just like looking at him and, you know, just telling him I loved him. And then I went back and stayed at my stepmom's house. And early that morning, got the call that he passed away.
Wow.
So while I'm in LA, pretty much with all of that emotion, I just like totally, because when I was coming from Omaha, I had made some pretty positive choices. You know, like I had been through some stuff out there where it made me just refocus and redirect, you know, some of the things that I was doing. But when I went back to LA to bury my dad, I ended up, you know, smoking some weed, getting real high with some of my cousins. And man, I tripped out, bro. Like, I was out in the middle of the street, like tripping, like I broke my cousin's glass. I'm ashamed to say it, but I punched my sister. I was hallucinating. Like, I thought like demons and all kind of stuff was coming at me. Yeah. And I was running down the street. My sister was running after me, and the police ended up coming out. And this is Inglewood PD. You know what I'm saying? They don't play. And I punched one of the police officers. Like, no lie. I socked one of the police officers. So it's like a miracle I'm even still here right now. Yeah. And they, it was like 5 of them on top of me, like, you know, pushing me down to, you know, get me under control. And they ended up, because of that, because of all of those grown men on me, I ended up tearing my PCL. So I had to go to the hospital, and I was on crutches, had to do physical therapy. Yeah. And when I was in the hospital, that's when I felt another visitation from God. And God was just like, you know, you got to choose life or choose death. Yeah. Pretty much, that's the word I got. And I was like, you know, I'm going to choose life. And one thing that I said to God, though, I was like, if I do go in your direction, I do not want to be mediocre. You know what I'm saying? I do not want to be just a regular cat. Right. And from there, that's when I really got serious about my music. I got serious about school. I barely graduated from high school, so it was even a miracle even in that. But God was like just giving me all kind of signs. Like, I remember sitting with my guidance counselor. She was pretty much telling me, you're not going to graduate on time, because I missed so much school because I had taken time off to, you know, bury my fathers and to grieve. So I ended up having to like go to tutoring and just, you know, bust my butt to graduate on time. Yeah. So I ended up graduating on time. And one of the things that told me that God was with me and that I was going to graduate on time was I was at this music workshop. And this person was out in the lobby, like, you know how they have vendors selling stuff. Yeah. She had, this lady was selling like these trophies, and it said God's graduate on it, and it had a little figurine of a graduate, and it said Phil 1:4, which is short for Philippians 1:4. And correct me if I'm wrong, is that I can do all things through Christ?
Philippians 1:4, Philippians 3.
So whatever Philippians 1:4 is, I just know it's Philippians 1:4. Yeah. The point is, it was shortened. It had enough space to say Philippians, but it said Phil. Yeah. 1:4. And that's you. And I saw the little graduate, and this is like right when I'm in between, like not knowing whether I'm a graduate or not. Yeah. And I saw that, I bought that, and I ended up graduating. So it was like just confirmation, you know. Yeah. And so, like I said, the whole like life and death piece, like just. I got serious about school. I ended up graduating, went straight to community college, did really well there, and then transferred to Seattle Pacific University, did well there, and you know, just kept making good decision after good decision because God had his hand on my life. Yep. And yeah, man, just, I mean, there's a lot more I can go into, but that's really what set me on this course, you know, to being the man that I am today. Was built on that foundation in terms of, you know, my faith. Yeah.
So I'm gonna say this, I always like the come to Christ moment. What keeps you in Christ even now? Because, you know, like that's, you know, there's a whole bunch of different theological debates on that kind of stuff. But for you, what do you feel like, how is he still speaking to you? How is he still transforming you?
Yeah. So it's just, I've had undeniable experiences with him that I know that he's real, for one, and I know what his power feels like, you know, and I'm not going to get too in-depth into that, but I've just had some, like, very clear, like, God's presence was covering me. Like, I got this song on my last album called Angel Watching Over Me, and I'm just talking about how some of the things, like, when I was back in Inglewood with all those police officers on me, it's like, how did I even survive that? And I assaulted a police officer. Like, there's no way any other time we've heard the stories of people that have done much less and been killed. Right. So things like that throughout my life has just confirmed like God is just there, bro. Yeah. And it's just like undeniable. It's like when Paul is talking to Timothy and he's saying like the faith that first lived in your grandmother Lois, you know, and now, you know, to your mother, that lineage, bro, like just that faith tradition has been passed on to me, and I've just seen confirmation after confirmation.
Dope.
And God just, I don't know, bro. Like I don't want to sound like, I don't want to say like it's like a special relationship, because I feel like everybody has the same access to God, but for whatever reason, God was like, you.
Yeah.
You know, like I got homies that they can get away with stuff. I've just never been able to get away. Like
Yeah.
I've always, like, I'm the one who's gonna get in trouble, or I'm gonna be the one who's picked out or spotted out or called out.
Yeah.
And it's just like, dang, God, all right, so let me stay on the up and up, you know.
Dope. Well, that's the testimony with your boy Philip Sharp Skills Jacobs.
This video is sponsored by our partnership with God Made Merch, my go-to for faith-based clothing that I personally wear. Catch the latest from the brand on Instagram at _God Made Merch. Get 10% off when you visit GodMadeMerch.com and apply the code YDK Radio at checkout. God Made Merch. We are all created in His image.